Okay, it's time for a gear breakdown. We're back from our trip and I'm going to go through everything I brought on my Washington BDR. On this trip, we started north of Centralia, rode our bikes down to Highway 12, cut over 12, dropped down into the Gifford Pinchot National Forest, camped for a night, woke up the next day, and finished our ride down to the start of the trail at Bridge of the Gods. From there, we followed the trail the entire route all the way up through Section 4 and ended up stopping near Lake Chelan. We had a mechanical failure, which then required us to ride our bikes back down to Kashmir to have it checked out before we then rode to Wenatchee. And from Wenatchee, we were able to pick up a U-Haul and put our bikes in it and head back. So start to finish, not including the U-Haul miles, but riding miles only, we rode over 735 miles on these little motorcycles. My bike is a 2020 XT250. And I get about 75 miles per gallon, which is pretty awesome. So you can do the math and figure out I filled up less than 10 gallons of gas. Pretty awesome. And for the route that we did, we spent a total of 8 days doing those 735 miles of riding. Because of the mechanical failure, we stopped 169 miles just short of finishing the Washington BDR. We did get to do sections 1 through 4 though. This is what I took on my trip. So I carried 2 panniers, they're Ortlieb. I've had those panniers for at least 12 years, I think more. They are no longer made. They haven't been made for a long time. If you look online, you won't even see the ones that I have, which don't even have a molded back. It's a flat foam back. They're super old. It's less than 50 liters. It's like 45 liters, I think, for both. So they're pretty small. So I'm going to go ahead and take apart one of the panniers. Okay, so this saddlebag has my sleeping pad. This is a Cedar Summit sleeping pad. It's a women's insulated sleeping pad. It's pretty bulky. I wish I had one that was smaller, but the ones that are smaller are not comfortable enough for me to sleep on and get any sleep. So I've had to upgrade to a pretty bulky sleeping pad, unfortunately. So that just goes on top. I have my stool. This stool just came from Amazon. I can use it to either sit or use it as a footrest. And it just snaps right together. Simple as that. I carry my toolkit, and this toolkit, for its size, works pretty well for me. I do also have the stock toolkit that comes with a bike, which is actually relatively robust. And then I'm happy to show you what is in this kit that I carry as well. Okay. Then also along the lines of tools, I carry this, which I believe is called an enduro stand. I'm able to put my bike up, whether it's clean the chain or pull a tire off or whatever. I'm able to use this to put underneath the bike and lift it. I also carry a kickstand plate. You can also just find a rock, a can, whatever you want. But I carry this, it's easy, it's small enough, light enough, and then I never have to worry about if I am not going to be able to get my kickstand down. I had a sun hat, which I never used, but I'm glad I had it just in case. I also carry a big chunk of cordage because this is helpful, well, whatever I need to use it for, but also one of the main purposes, if I happen to be somewhere where I know it's bear country, I can use the cordage to hang a bag of food on a tree and keep it safe from bears and keep the bears safe from my food. This, I actually carry a very small amount of lube, like of oil, Yama lube with me, whatever oil I have on my bike. Obviously, if I like crack a case, this isn't going to be enough, but if for some reason I just need a little bit of oil, I can use that. And likewise, I also have chain lube. I have, this isn't the one I usually use on my bike, but when I travel, I have a little container of chain lube that I can use. And then I also have a mini chain brush. And then a handful of shop towels for cleaning the chain. This is kind of my maintenance bag. But that's about all I carry for maintenance. The trip was short enough. I did lube my chain once, but otherwise it was fine. Spare tube, a front tube, because the front tube can also be used in an emergency for the rear tire. This is my toilet paper kit. So this is a combination of toilet paper, trowel, a baggie for the toilet paper, antibacterial wipes, all of that stuff. I just keep zippered in here. I carry, it's not the most efficient one to dig with, but I have a titanium trowel that I use. So this is the Tent Labs Deuce of Spades, 0.6 ounces for that. Okay, and then for this trip, because the weather seemed to be fluctuating quite a bit, we were kind of on the fringe season, I did bring a pair of tennis shoes. So these are the New Balance Minimus, and they are super ultra light. They're very comfortable. They just don't have a lot of support, so you wouldn't want to do a ton of hiking in them, but it worked perfect for a camp shoe. And then I splurged, and I also brought my flip-flops because I love flip-flops. But it was a little bit cold, so I did end up wearing the tennis shoes quite a bit. I did a weight comparison, and actually bringing something like a Keen or something weighed almost the same as bringing both of these pairs. So I just went ahead and brought both of them, and I used both of them quite a bit. These are great for shower shoes too, if you can find somewhere to take a shower. But around camp, to keep the dust out and everything, these were pretty good. Okay, so here was my chair. This is a Helinox Chair Zero. It's ultralight, and it packs pretty small, and you can just snap it all together. And then you have like an ultralight, super comfortable chair to sit in. This and the stool that I brought were kind of like splurge items, but having done the trip now, I actually wouldn't consider them splurge items. I would actually almost consider them mandatory, because at the end of a long day of riding, there's nothing more wonderful than being able to put a chair up and sit and not be on the ground. So highly recommend finding an ultralight chair and bringing it with you on a trip like this. Okay, what's up next? Here we go. I just shoved my waterproof pants right in the top. So for riding gear, what I do is not normal at all. I wear my mesh over pants most of the time. They're Olympia Sports, I believe, or Olympia Motorsports women's overpants. And they're mesh. And I'll wear those, and I'll wear leggings underneath them. Or if it's cold, they also come with this waterproof liner. So if it's cold out, I'll even put the liner in and wear that. I like to wear the mesh pants because for me, it makes it much easier to thermoregulate. I can swap things out, and it's a little bit more versatile than just wearing pants. It is a little bit more work, so if it starts to rain, obviously I have to stop. I have to take the overpants off, put these on, and then put the pants back on. But for me, it's worth it. And then on the top, I tend to wear a roost, a CE rated roost. So I wear that over my jersey, my riding jersey. And I'll put the roost on, and then I also have a Climb waterproof Gore-Tex jacket. So again, I can thermoregulate a little bit better. I feel comfortable riding with just my jersey, my roost, my elbow pads, and just riding like that. If it's warm out, or if it happens to be cold or wet out, I can actually put the Climb women's jacket over the top And if it's rainy out, same thing. I took all the padding out of the climb jacket, so it's less bulky. I'm not carrying around the shoulder, back, or elbow pads in the jacket, so it's relatively light. I don't bring a rain jacket with me, so the climb jacket is a substitute for a rain jacket, so I'm not carrying too much extra weight. That's my preference. I find when it's hot, I am way more comfortable riding in like dirt bike gear than I am the typical adventure rider gear with like the full the full jacket and the full pants. So that's why I do the mesh pants and then the roost and the jacket on top. Also, when I'm road riding, then I can put the climb jacket on and it's way warmer and just more protective for road riding. But on the dirt, I can scale it back a little to what's more comfortable and flexible. Okay, so because of that, I actually don't quite have enough space in my bags to put the climb jacket when I'm not wearing it. So it does become a little bit of a problem, but I have this other super old waterproof roll top backpack. So I will stuff the climb jacket in the Sea to Summit pack, and then I'll just roll it up and I will strap it to the top of my bike, and I'll just use ROX straps, ROX straps. They're awesome. If you don't know about them, check them out. They're really great because as you ride, it's got a bungee. It's not just cordage that you're cinching. So if things shift and loosen up a little while you ride, it is able to retain tension and hold things down. So those are my favorite for on a motorcycle. So I will just strap this to the top of my box with my jacket in it if I'm not wearing my jacket and I'm just riding in my chest protector and dirt gear. This is just my Toiletries kit. I went pretty low. Oh, and Yahtzee. I have my dice in here in case I want to play Yahtzee. But I'll show you what's in this kit as well. I got my toothbrush, toothpaste. You can see everything laid out. Sunscreen. I did bring shampoo in case we got into town where I could take a shower. I don't recommend the deodorants with aluminum in them. I try and avoid them like the plague. But on a trip like this, I don't like the stick because sometimes the stick gets too hot in my pack and it melts and creates a disaster. And I have yet to find a spray one or a roll-on that's in a very small trial size that I can bring. But as soon as I do, I'll be bringing a different one. And then you can see pretty much everything else. I do have my dice in there in case we wanted to play Yahtzee. I just keep it in my first aid, my Toiletries kit. No reason why, it just fits in there. So, and then this just has Q-tips, Sudafed, earrings, hair ties, whatever else in there. Yeah, so that is all that I brought. And this is like the world's tiniest hairbrush. I actually got it in a dollar store years and years ago, and I wish I had a couple more because they work really well for backpacking and moto camping and bike packing. So that's it for Toiletries. And this is kind of my extras. So this is stuff that I didn't necessarily need to bring, but I really wanted to bring. So I had a head net. I never, thankfully, never had to use my mosquito head net, but I did bring one, my Sea to Summit head net. I am glad I brought it, even though I never used it. You bring one, you won't need one. You don't bring it, you're gonna need one. I brought a highlighter. I just like to have a highlighter in case somebody gives me information on a place or something, somewhere I should stop. I'm able to use a highlighter on my map. You could just use a pen. I prefer a highlighter. It shows up a little better. And then hand sanitizer, Tylenol, a couple pens, and then a couple pocket knives, a whistle. These are, this is like a Fox 40 whistle. This whistle works really loud, just in case you need it. Also kept all my gas up receipts in here. And then in the back pouch, I had my passport card for when we hit the Canadian border, but we didn't make it. Duct tape, CPR mask, my earphones, and then a super, so just a few first aid items, just like Band-Aids. So super basic. If I just need a Band-Aid, I could have them in this case without pulling out my full first aid kit. And then the last thing in here is this. So this is actually a trash compactor bag, not just a garbage bag, specifically a trash compactor bag. So sometimes even backpacking, I'll use these as a liner to my backpack. They work really well because they're extremely durable and thick compared to normal garbage bags. So they hold up really well. So this has multiple functions. I can either use it to line my saddlebags. If I know I'm going to be doing a lot of water crossings, I will actually do it. These are roll top, should be waterproof. But to be sure, a lot of times I'll just line the saddlebag with the trash compactor bag, twist the top and smush it down so that I know if my bike falls in water, which I do fall in water a lot, then my stuff will stay dry. The other purpose for it is at the end of the night, I can pull this bag out. I can put all of my dirt riding gear, my jacket, my roost, my pants, whatever, my boots, all of it into the bag, and I just twist it and I flip it upside down and put it on the ground. That way all my stuff is going to stay dry. No critters are going to crawl in it. It's all secure for the night, but not in my tent or under my vestibule. It keeps the area clear. I found that that's the best way to do it. It does add a little bit to your packing system, but the weight is negligible for the ease of just shoving all your stuff in it at night and making sure everything in your bag stays dry. So this is the roost I have. It's just an Icon Wetman's protector. So I wear that one, and then this is my climb jacket. It's the Climb Women's Altitude. Okay, so let's check out what's in the other saddlebag now. My other flip-flop sits on top of the saddlebag. So the second one is over here. I do put carabiners on the bag top to make sure it stays sealed. And then this is double bagged because this is my sleeping bag. So this is a Cuban fiber stuff sack, roll top, and then inside is an E-vent waterproof stuff sack that's compressible. And this is my Thermarest 20-degree down quilt. This thing was awesome. I was a little bit hesitant about bringing it because quilt, you have no bottom layer on it. So I was worried I was going to get cold, but because my sleeping pad is insulated, that helped a lot to not be chilled by the ground temp. And I used the Thermarest quilt, and I don't know if I'll go back to not using a quilt. It was so great because I don't like being in a mummy bag and my feet get really antsy and want to be out of the sleeping bag. So this, like a blanket, it's great. So I double bag that just to make quadruple sure it's not going to get wet. It's the most important thing in my whole kit to not get wet. All right, next up, my pillow. So this is a Goose Gear down pillow. And then this is kind of like a pillow topper. And then I blow up the inflatable pillow, and there's a pocket for me to stick it in. This inflatable pillow is the guts, the inside of a Nemo pillow. So I took the guts of the pillow, took it out of its case, and I stole it from my Goose Gear outer shell. So that's very comfortable, and it folds up pretty compact. The only thing I have to worry about, like the sleeping bag, is that it doesn't get wet. So I shove it into a quart-size Ziploc bag. Call it good. Next up is my cup and bowl. They are both made out of this. They are snap fold bowls and cups. It also doubles as a cutting board. Works pretty well. Just snaps together. Good part about this is it can just slide into the back of my saddlebag since it folds flat. So I've found these to work really well moto camping, and they're really inexpensive. Okay, so I have a bunch of small things in here as well. So this, I never actually used it, but it's just like a very, 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 very small cloth for washing dishes. This can be used for washing dishes, washing my face, whatever. This is a chunk of my pack towel. And this is my entire pack towel. It folds down really small, absorbs a ton of water, is ultra light, and is pretty big. Folds out pretty big size. So I bring that in case I have the opportunity to take a shower, which we did at a campground, or if I can go swimming somewhere. And this little piece that I showed you is actually a small cut off of this. I didn't need the full size of this one, so I just cut a strip off to be able to make a smaller cloth to be able to have it more versatile. Wet wipes. Everybody should bring wet wipes. At the end of the day, nothing feels more amazing than being able to use a couple wet wipes, wipe your face and get the chunk of dirt that's covering every single pore on your face. Because at the end of the day, especially a dusty day, there's no way you're getting out unscathed from being completely covered in dust. And this is my water filter system. I just use a Sawyer squeeze. They also have, in the kit when you buy this, they have a plunger in case the pump gets clogged. It's kind of big, so I don't know if they're still made the right size, but it used to be the Smart Water. The Smart Water bottles had a cap that's the exact size to be able to fit over this so that I can back flush it. So I can put water in my water bladder, which this is an aftermarket water bladder, not the one that comes with the Sawyer. This is an Evernew. It's a little bit bigger. It's 1.5 liters. And you can put the cap from the Smart Water bottle and back flush your filter if it gets clogged. This is much more reasonable to take with you than what is included in the Sawyer kit. And this is what I used for in the lakes and streams as we traveled to be able to filter my water. And the remainder of what's in this pack is way too much food. So I had quite a bit of food that I brought with me. Snacks that I had, oatmeal for every day, and then I had a little baggie that I kept all of my beverages in. So I like to have something in the morning with breakfast, like coffee or tea, and then in the evenings, a lot of times I like to also have a beverage. So I brought a lot of beverages. So they all fit into this, and then I brought a different one so I could pick and choose if I wanted apple cider or tea or coffee or what. That worked out well. Then I had the oatmeal and snacks, and more snacks in here, pepper, some condiments and stuff, and a bunch of powders for water, which I actually never used, but I thought I would use them, but I didn't. And then I also carried a couple of the backpacker meals with me. That way, if we hit a town at the wrong time of day where we weren't eating in town and we ended up in the wilderness, I would still have food that I could eat. Or if we just decided to stay an extra night somewhere, then I too would have food that I could eat. Okay, so now for the contents of my backpack. I actually carried more than I would have liked in my backpack, and I wish I could upgrade my saddlebags to get a slightly bigger saddlebag, probably at least 50 liters, maybe a little bigger, and be able to put everything in there and not have to put anything in my backpack except for water. Yeah, it just gets really tiring on your shoulders to carry weight, but I was kind of tapped out on space, and financially I couldn't upgrade my panniers. I've had those for probably almost 15 years. They work really well. They're waterproof, they're bulletproof. I've taken spills with them. They're still kicking, but they are small. They're fine for like a couple days, but pretty small when you're on a week plus trip. Okay, so here's my backpack. I had my sweatshirt crammed in there, which I would put on intermittently throughout the day. Same with my little puffy jacket. I just have a Patagonia Nano puffy thing that I put on. And so I had both of those in my backpack. Also because I would take them on and off, like when we'd stop, if it were chilly out, I would just throw on one of those layers. Not heavy, but just more bulk. I rode most of the time with my dirt gloves, but I also had waterproof Climb Badland Gore-Tex gloves, which I used when it was cold, or if it was raining. It didn't rain on us while we were riding, but otherwise I would have pulled those out. And then my elbow pads, I have them in there. I don't know why my cup's in here. I think I just threw it in here, but the cup's usually in the saddle bags, but that's my cup. It folds up. Actually, I'll just show you. Fold it in, this fold for the handle. They don't make this one anymore, but you can find similar ones out there. Works pretty well, no complaints. Then I had my neck gaiter, which I did wear not necessarily, I think once or twice because it was chilly out when we started riding, but also just to keep the dust out of my face, like from billowing up into my, and then, oh, this little pouch just fits my Garmin Zumo. So if we stop somewhere to have lunch or something, if I pulled it off my bike, I could put it in this little padded bag. So chuck it in my backpack. For water bottles, I actually have a MSR hydration pack that I carried with me, but I also just got Gatorade, drank the bottle and then Gatorade, and then just refilled it with water. I find these bottles are pretty durable and they're lightweight, so I sometimes even use them backpacking, so I just went ahead and used them. And I had 2 of those that I would fill up. It also helps if I want to put powders in there, then it doesn't make my hydration bladder funny with the powders. I could just put it in the bottle. Okay, so my spoon and fork are both Snow Peak folding. So all they do, you just unscrew it, it pivots, you screw it back tight again, and then you have a long-handled spoon and fork. And I use these because they're titanium, they're really light, but also if I eat out of the pouches, they're long-handled, so you don't end up getting like food all over your knuckles and your hand from digging in the freeze-dried bag. So I super prefer to use the long-handled forks and spoons. And then I had some hand sanitizer, Bronner's Lavender, peanut butter that I ate on the trail. I would just get an apple, cut the apple up, and then squirt some peanut butter on it, or take a bite of apple, take a squirt of peanut butter, whichever. So I kept that with me. This bag is actually what I put my tennis shoes in. It's not in there right now because everything kind of got rejigged since I've been back, but I would just put my tennis shoes in there so that if they were dirty on the bottom or something, it kept the dirt contained in a bag instead of falling all over my saddlebags and on everything. Grapefruit. A little notebook, because I do like to take notes. And at the end of a day, I would just scribble down some notes so I could remember like the terrain that we went over or anything specific that happened during the day. My pocket knife, I have a Benchmade knife that I backpack with that I also took on the trail with me. A bandana, which is good for cleaning stuff, or if you're like me and you're allergic to most of Washington, then I use that as my Kleenex. Snacks, headlamp, and I actually carry 2 of these. These are the Petzl E-Lights, and they're so small and so lightweight. They're way lighter weight than a full headlamp. Don't work as well, not as bright, but at the same time I can carry 2 of them, so if there's a battery or a bulb problem, I have a backup. It just expands, oops, upside down, expands, and then you can cant it. And then also it has the red light so you don't mess up your night vision. It can do SOS light, flashing SOS. It can do white light, flashing white light, a lot of different options. They're just super small and ultralight, and I bring 2 of those just in case. Earplugs, because riding on long stretches of highway on a motorcycle is annoying. And I don't know why, but I have a second knife. Okay, and then this I had carabined onto my backpack and tucked in a side pocket, but this is my pee rag, which sounds gross, and I was like kind of anti-pee rag at first, but now that I've used them, they're awesome. You waste so much less toilet paper. You don't have to pack out toilet paper all the time. Super easy. Highly recommend for women. And that is called a Kula cloth. So let's move on to clothes. So this is always the trickiest one for me because I hate being cold, I hate being hot. So I did carry that fleece and the Patagonia Nano. Those were kind of my warmer layers. I would wear those even when riding if I were cold. And what else did I have? I had my jersey that I wore. I actually had two jerseys, so I'd be wearing one for a few days and then swap to the other one. And then partway through, we were able to go into a laundromat and wash them. But I probably could have actually made it the rest of the trip just with these 2. That was actually perfect for those. So wear one and bring one. I had my skirt. So I bring a skirt because I, like I mentioned, I have the overpants that I wear. They have full zips. So I can actually just put that skirt on over it and then undo the pants, step out of them, and voila, I'm in my skirt. I also find it's very comfortable at camp to wear that because I can either wear that by itself or I could put leggings under it and it's warmer. That's just my preference, but I almost always backpack with skirts. So it carries over to Moto World as well. Sports bra, spare one, wear one. And then a t-shirt. So I had, this is really old, but it's an Arc'teryx ultralight backpacking shirt, which super quick dry, very comfortable, very lightweight. I wore that for at camp. That was my casual, clean at camp shirt to wear with a skirt. Then I had a wicking tank top that I wore underneath the jerseys that I was wearing while riding. And then leggings, which I wore these underneath the overpants most days. There was one day that was warm enough I didn't actually wear them, but all the other days it was pretty, kind of just a little chilly out. So just wearing mesh pants would be a little bit cold, so I just put my leggings on underneath, and then also it just made it easy and comfortable. Then these are leggings also, but these are actually my kayaking Mysterioso leggings. So they're fleece on the inside, super comfortable. I wore these to sleep in, and then I would also wear them underneath the skirt at camp if it was cold out. But otherwise, those were my PJs. And likewise, I have this top, which is just a long sleeve icebreaker top. And this top is wool. So wool has really great properties on so many levels. But one of the biggest for me, at least in backpacking, moto traveling, bike packing world, is its antimicrobial properties. It tends to stink less than other materials. When you get the synthetic materials, they tend to stink and then they hold the stink in. Wool doesn't do that in the same way. So this is what I slept in. So most of the time my fleece pants and then this wool shirt is what I slept in. And I was very comfortable. And then I brought 5 pairs of underwear and did wash partway through, so it worked out perfect. You can wash, I have quick dry ones for traveling ex officio Patagonia. And so you could even wash them in a stream and just put them out in the sun for a little bit and they'll be dry, which is super handy. I brought 2 pairs of climb riding socks. I really like the climb riding socks. And 3 would have been nice, but like 2 is doable, especially since we did wash. You're just wearing each one for a few days. And so these worked out fine. And then the only other pair of socks I brought My sacred socks were these Smart Wool socks. They're actually compression socks, so they're good at camp, especially certain places like Bethel Ridge or places where you're camping at altitude. It's nice to have the compression socks at camp to make sure you don't have any swelling like a little old lady. but these worked out really well, and then I could also pull them up, so at camp if it were dusty, my legs weren't getting super dusty. I could wear them to sleep, but I didn't because I didn't need to. But these were great to have one extra pair. If I decided to take a hike, put on my tennis shoes, at least I had a pair of socks that were not my riding socks, which were pretty stanky by the end. And that is, oh, lastly, I had my little beanie. It is hunting season. I think it's bow season though, so not too much of a worry. But I did bring my orange smoky beanie. And then I brought, which was extra, don't need them, but fingerless gloves, which to me was pretty awesome to have at camp because I could still function and cook and everything, but it would take the edge off in the mornings and the evenings. They're also low enough profile, I can actually fit them under my dirt gloves. So it was kind of like, gave me 3 different gloves. I could either just wear these, which are vented. I could wear these with the fingerless glove to take the edge off, or if neither one of those was quite warm enough, then I could switch to my Climb Badlands. And that is what I brought for clothes. Okay, and here's the contents of my toolkit. So this does not include all the items that are automatically part of the Yamaha XT250 toolkit, which fits into a side compartment on the bike. These are what I brought in addition, plus Brian also had his own tools too. So between the both of us, we covered most of the bases. So I do have a Motion Pro tire spoon that's the exact millimeters of the rear axle, CO2 cartridges and filler, zip ties. I have this little screwdriver, but it's also magnetic. So a lot of times I'll drop screws into parts of the engine. So if I bring this, then I can also stick it in there and snag stuff if I drop a bolt or something. I have Loctite, Bead Buddy. I have a spare spark plug, extra zip ties, more CO2 cartridges. I have JB Weld. I have this, which is super handy. I carry my extra lighter in there, and then I just put a zip tie around the top so there's no way that the top could depress in bumping and riding or hit anything else in this kit and end up empty. And then this is for my bicycle, but I bring my bicycle tool because it's got a bunch of Allen wrenches, screwdrivers, chain breaker, all kinds of stuff on there. And then tire valve puller, have the electrical tape, flagging tape, glow-in-the-dark duct tape, regular duct tape. I have some wire, I have a funnel, I carry extra gloves and a bunch of just random hardware parts that fit on my bike that I just pray will be the right size that I might need if I need one. And then an extra Velcro strap, which I can use for a lot of things, but specifically I often bring one that's the size where I could pull on the front brake if I need to. If I need to do work on the bike, then I can strap it around the front brake. So, oh, and then shop towels. So not a ton, but I can only do so much myself on the road, so cover most of the bases between this and the included manufacturer toolkit. Shoot, I almost forgot. I also carry one of these, which is just webbing, and I put that often in my toolkit, and that way I can either use it if I need it to hang something, I could use it to strap something down on the bike, I can use it for towing. So if we had a problem with one of the bikes and we needed to tow, you can use this as like a tow strap from bike to bike. And then in our case, we actually end up using it in the U-Haul when we got the U-Haul and needed to tie the bikes down. Brian had a strap, I had a strap, so we had 2 straps between us. which covers us usually if we needed to tow on a trail. And then in the U-Haul, we did have to buy one set of straps, but at least we each had one. Okay, last but certainly not least, my first aid kit. So on our trip, we kind of split up some of our shared gear. So for instance, Brian carried the body and the fly of the tent, and I carried the tent poles. So in order to carry the tent poles, which tent poles are super annoying on motorcycles to carry, they don't quite fit, at least in my bags. They won't fit in my bags, they're too long. And then strapping them to the top makes me a little bit nervous because they're just kind of tied on. There's not super awesome ways to secure them. So one day, like years and years ago, I was just walking around Home Depot and came up with this. So this is my tent pole carrier. So I actually just went to Home Depot and I got a gutter, section of gutter. The cap is on there pretty tight. And then cut it to size, and you can buy these little end caps and they're open-ended. So I just cover them with duct tape, and I put one on the bottom and I actually cover the whole thing with duct tape and duct tape it to the pole holder, to the gutter, so it doesn't come off. And then on the top one, I just make it like a cap. And then I have this mesh bag. So I slide the tent poles into this bag, put the tent poles down into the tube, and then I have access to these loops. So to pull the tent poles out, it's really easy to just grab the loops and yank the poles out. This cap fits on pretty tight. And because of the angle of it, because it's angled up, it's really unlikely the poles come out. So after hundreds and hundreds and hundreds, actually probably thousands of miles between all the dual sports that I've had, I've never once had a problem with the poles coming out of that. Super secure, fits behind there. I have it a combination of zip tied and Velcro tied to the rack, and it's on there. The whole entire bike shakes when I try and pull it off. So that's worked out really well. So that is where I stored the poles. And just as a aside here, on my bike, they put the toolkit, stock toolkit, in the side compartment here underneath the front fairing. And that toolkit is usually secured by a screw. So in order to get into the toolkit, you need a screwdriver, the irony. So what I did was I found the right size dimension of thread, and then I bought this so that I could actually just pull this off without having to get a screwdriver. So I'm able to just undo that and get into the toolkit. One last thing I forgot to mention. The only thing I didn't show you was my top box. So the top box that I had on the back of the bike only had my electronics. So I didn't show you that, but that's all that was in that top box. And last but not least, my first aid kit. Get that undone. Okay, so for my toolkit, I use this, which this bag is a Revelate Designs bag. And Revelate Designs makes bags for bike packing. So I also mountain bike pack and do multi-day trips. And this is designed for that. You can actually strap it around the frame of your bicycle, and you get extra storage or water bottle or whatever you want. But I use it and I strap it on to the racks on my motorcycle, and I use it for my first aid kit. That way, if, knock on wood, if anything happens and I need to get into my first aid kit, it's very accessible on the outside. I don't have to dig through a saddlebag to get to anything. It's on the outside of my bike, and it's the only thing in here is first aid supplies. So this is what's in there. I have a cat. It's like a tourniquet. Never know. Hope to never use it, but I do have one. And then a first aid kit. It seems small, but this is an incredibly robust first aid kit that I have refined over years and years and years. And as you see, it's pretty small, but you'll be surprised at everything I can fit in here. Okay, here's what's in my first aid kit. There is a lot in my first aid kit. It's pretty surprising how much I fit in that little tiny bag. Literally, it's like over 10 years of me perfecting what I wanted to include. So this is just a bag of all different size bandages in there, gauze, and that seems to be what you use most, like just a small Band-Aid. And then the tourniquet, and then I have second skin, I have moleskin, I have also just heat, like hand warmers in case I need those quick clot. I have semi-permeable dressings. These are awesome, especially for something like a dirt bike trip, because once you get the environment wherever the wound is clean, if you put this on here, it's a clear window, so you can see if it's getting infected or not, but it keeps everything under it clean. So I like those a lot. I have those in a couple different sizes. And then I have a triangular bandage. The cravat wiki, you can actually makeshift one using a lot of different things, but so I just put one in instead of a bunch. And then stretch bandages, gauze. I have dental floss wrapped around there on that gauze in case I need that for something. And then an elastic bandage. This is my first aid kit. This is from a wilderness first responder class that I took. I shrunk down the first aid kit, shrunk down the first aid manual, and it's pretty tiny, but I can read it, so that's all that matters. And I laminated it and hole punched it, so if I have any questions, I'm able to reference this. And then gloves, and I have gloves in my thing that are non-sterile. I have thermometers, disposable thermometers. I have the bug spray, insect repellent, but it also has sunblock in it. I keep a hair tie in there just because you never know when you're gonna need an elastic. The scissors. This is like Coban. You can get it as vet wrap. You can now get it in most stores, but it sticks to itself. It works really well to do a final wrap on something. Little duct tape. And this, aside from its obvious use, is really good for a bloody nose. You can just jam it up your nose. And then I have a space blanket. This is a tick remover. These work so well. You don't break off the tick. And then safety pins, of course. And then adhesive, like a little tape to wrap stuff. I have a file, don't know why, I just keep it in my first aid kit, but sometimes you do need a file, hangnail or something. Glide, in case I need glide. And this just has some Q-tips and cotton gauze pads. This is all the moisture products. I keep them all in one bag, just so if they leak, they stay with like things. But that's antibacterial stuff, antiseptic, wound wipe, hydrocortisone, like all kinds of different things that you might need. Betadine, all of it. And then this section up here is just all the small amounts of medications that I carry. Like you have antihistamines, antidiarrheals, Tylenol painkillers, Sudafed, allergy meds, Tums, cough and cold meds, just like a sampling of all different types of things. So that is what I carry in my first aid kit, and it all fits in this little pouch, except for the tourniquet, which I keep separate. Pretty darn small for everything that I can fit in that little bag. For me, this works well. It covers everything that I am able to treat myself, and hopefully I can help other people on the trail with what I bring. And so there you have it, all packed up again, back in its little bag. It takes a little work to get it all shoved in there. It barely fits, but it fits. And I will say, if you're gonna do any kind of outdoor stuff, multi-day adventures on the regular, whether it be motorcycles or bicycles or backpacking or any of it, if you have the time and financially can afford it, to invest in taking a wilderness specific first aid classes. You won't regret it. You'll learn a lot. A lot of it's valuable. It's teaching you to think where emergency services may not be readily available or slow to respond, which is critical when you're out in the boonies. So I've taken Wilderness First Responder, which is but even if you just take the basic wilderness first aid class, you learn a lot of valuable information there that could help, if nothing else, train your mind to think in a different mindset if you get injured in the backcountry. I can't say enough good things about it. I recertify every 2 years. I have to get recertified for the first responder status, and I do that pretty religiously because to me it's very important to keep my skills up to date, and it's amazing how much you forget in 2 years. So as much as a pain as it is for me to have to go and retest every 2 years, it's actually incredibly valuable because the amount of information and my retention after 2 years is pretty low. So it's great. It's if you're out in the backcountry, do it. You could help yourself, you could help your friends, or you could end up helping a stranger. Win, win, win. And lastly, this is the backpack that I took with me. It's a Mountain Hardwear Scrambler 30-liter backpack. It is not by any means my favorite backpack that I own, but the great part about it is that right there. It is waterproof, so it's not totally submersible because the top is not a roll top, but you can have it completely soaked in water up to there and it's not going to leak. I have done it. I've actually backpacked up through rivers where the pack was in water to about there, and I didn't get anything on the inside of the pack. I brought that one with me as opposed to my climb backpack because this way I wouldn't have to use a rain cover. It fits quite a bit more in the pack, and the side pockets are really great because they are so deep that I can put the Gatorade bottle in there and not worry one bit about riding down difficult bumpy terrain and having the water bottle pop out. This is my beacon. I use a Rescue Me PLB1. This is very old. I've actually replaced the battery in it. It's so old. I've had it a really long time. It works well for me. It is one-way communication, meaning you cannot, all you can send is SOS. Like, I'm in danger, send help. You can't send any other specific messages. You can't text. You can't receive replies back. It's just one-way transmission to NOAA beacons, and then NOAA looks up the beacon number and contacts your emergency contacts and asks if you might be in danger. They say yes, and then emergency services get deployed, but they have no idea what's going on. They don't know if you're a mechanical failure. They don't know if you're broken. They don't know if you're dying. So it is a very basic beacon, but the thing I like about it is I don't want to send messages to my friends and family when I'm out in the wilderness. I love the fact that I am not near any services or anyone, and I don't want to set the expectations for my friends and family that if they don't hear from me, something is wrong. So for me, it's more like no news is good news. And I like this beacon because there's no subscription service. So it's completely free. I don't pay an annual or monthly fee for it, but it is not rechargeable, so you have to replace the battery when it dies. It dies, I think, about every five or 6 years, something like that. The battery just has to be replaced. It's pretty expensive to replace the battery. And then also, like I said, all it's sending is SOS. It's not giving anybody any information. So pick and choose your battles there. That's the one I've had for years. It's worked for me. I just can't afford to pay the subscription to get a different beacon right now. So I just keep that one, and it's there in case I need it, which hopefully I won't ever need it. Okay, so that's all I have for you. That was pretty much my complete full moto rundown of everything that I took with me on 8 days moto camping across Washington state. If you have any little cool things that you take with you that you find useful, put it down in the comments below. I'd love to hear about them. or if you have any tips or tricks or anything like that, I'm all ears. I'm always interested in hearing what other people use for their setup and what works for them, and see if I might be able to integrate it into my system. Till then, see you next time.